Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My Two Cent Nintendo/gaming video for this week, for the week of October 18th through the 24th, where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion on them. We have basically five, although four, with the fifth one I'm going to explain, which is the fact that I want to give my thoughts on the demo for Immortals Fenyx Rising. It's worth pointing out the demo is based off the Google Stadia version, since right now if you go to Google Stadia, you could try out the demo for Immortals Fenyx Rising, so I want to give my thoughts on that one though. But I also want to cover some of the other stories, including Nintendo, which has to do with ranging from what one NPD analysis thinks of the future in regards of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, to the surprise announcement that the original Fire Emblem is coming to the Nintendo Switch. I also want to talk about sort of a controversy Sony got themselves caught into with the PS5 in regards of voice chat, which hasn't really sat well with everyone out there. I also want to talk about WB games, especially Mortal Kombat 11, in which they were reluctant or wasn't sure that a game like this was going to fit on the Nintendo Switch, mostly due to the age demographic and so forth, thinking that Nintendo is for kids and all that stuff though. And finally, I want to talk about also Microsoft, and made some comments in regarding their future relationship with Nintendo, about any possibility of a new Banjo or Conquer game, to even a comment they made in regards following their purchase of Bethesda, which supposedly not everyone is happy about it, but I kind of understand what Microsoft is going with this though, even though I don't 100% agree with it. I definitely can see their point to it though. But before we get started though, I do want to go through what is the quick My Two Cents, stories that caught my attention to a certain degree, but I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details on. The first one I want to talk about is that it looks like the game 13, or XIII, while it's still scheduled to be released supposedly on November 10th, assuming I'm getting the release date correct on this, apparently the Switch port has been delayed to 2021, which is kind of unfortunate because for a lot of Switch owners, we have to wait for the versions to come out when the other versions are already out though. I don't know, they didn't give any reason why the game got delayed on the Switch. There's no word on whether they're having trouble porting the game to the Switch, or if there are certain issues like maybe the studio that's handling the Switch version probably needs to do a little bit more details to it, so we don't know. But in either case, the Switch version has been delayed till 2021. We also learned that a remake of the first Corpse Party, I believe that was originally released back during the PSP era, is coming to the Nintendo Switch, which, again, I've heard this game, but I've never played it, but it's obviously clear we're seeing a lot of sort of niche titles start making their way over to the Nintendo Switch, which, to me, I certainly am not against that in any way. We also learned that for those who are upgrading to the Xbox Series S or X, though, the so-called Halo Master Chief Collection will receive basically a 120 frames per second upgrade, though, which is kind of interesting, though. I've never played Halo, although I've heard of it, though, and since I pre-ordered the Xbox Series S, I might want to consider, I'm definitely looking at trying out the Master Chief Collection, though. I never played that game, but I'll definitely worth giving it a try, although when they originally launched, it ran into some issues on the Xbox One, but supposedly they did enough to fix it, though. I would say, although Halo has its fan base and all that stuff, since 343 Industries have been handling Halo, it's been spotty at its best, as not everyone is happy with some of the ways 343 Industry has handled the Halo franchise and all. We also learned that the Switch version of Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is receiving a new update and all, which is certainly nice though. I applaud CD Projekt Red and Saber Interactive that are handling the Switch version, still putting more effort into the Witcher 3, the Switch version of it, especially now that they offer the option where you could switch between the Switch version, take your save files and put it in like either the Steam or the GOG on your PC and all that stuff. That really makes the Switch version feel like the definitive version of Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We also got one picture so far that's been released of Tom Holland, who's starring in the supposedly upcoming Uncharted movie, though. It looks promising, though, based on just the photo and all that stuff, but in a time when we're living in, where the Sonic the Hedgehog movie did very well, I think pressure is going to be on this one to really deliver a good Uncharted movie. I mean, we can't, movies based off of video games don't have a great reputation and all that stuff, and Sonic the Hedgehog along with Detective Pikachu really show that it can work when you have the right people involved in it. So my fingers are crossed on this one, that this one is handled very well. But as far as Tom Holland on playing Nathan Drake, still not seeing it, though. But for what I've been hearing, this takes place before the events of the first game. It's a younger Nathan Drake, so it can work, but it can also fail at the same time. So we'll have to wait and see. We also learned that basically Google is distancing at least themselves from a comment made by one of the creative directors or studio they purchased. It had to do with copyright, music and all, but it later exploded into a comment that has not sat very well. And according to the article from Game Industry Buzz, the comment that one of the person at Stadia's Game and Entertainment Montreal studio, known as Typhoon Studio, made a comment that suggesting that streaming gameplay is a similar violation. There were comment, he said, quote, "Streamers worry about getting their content pulled because they use music they didn't pay for should be more worried by the fact that they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well," he wrote. "It's all gone as soon as publishers decide to enforce it. The real truth is the streamers should be paying the developers and publishers for the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use." This comment has basically received a lot of negative response and has received major backlash to it, though. And a spokesperson spoke to 9 to 5 Google, basically stating, quote, "The recent tweet by one of their creative directors at Stadia's Game and Entertainment in Montreal studio does not reflect those of Stadia, YouTube, and Google." And while it is true he may not be the official this person who made this comment may not be the official spokesman for Stadia, since he's now under the Stadia umbrella, it's going to still look bad for Stadia as a whole. So it's a very dumb comment. This whole issue with copyrights and all that stuff has been a very gray area, though. And this recent comment is just going to add more headaches to Stadia that I don't think Google Stadia needs and all that stuff. Again, I don't think Stadia is as awful as the internet is making it sound like it is, but there's no doubt that there are room for improvement that they could do to the Stadia service, and this comment is just, I think, is going to add more fuel to the fire, and it certainly is not sitting well with everyone, to be exact. We also learned that Nintendo is permanently reducing the price of a Switch Joy-Con, and that means that you could basically buy a single Joy-Con, though, and that which could come in handy for those who need to replace one of their Joy-Cons on their Nintendo Switch. Supposedly this is now available in the US. I think it's going to start next month and all that stuff. So certainly nice for those who maybe one of their Joy-Cons aren't working, who has, like the Nintendo Switch and all that stuff and need a replacement, though. We also learned that Michael Patchard has made an interesting comment saying that Nintendo isn't smart and that they should scrap the Switch and only have the Switch Lite. I'm not a Patchett hater or anything like that, but I have to strongly disagree with it, though. I don't think they're dumb or anything like that. They've made mistakes before, but they've also hit it out of the park with some of their ideas and all that stuff. As far as scrapping the Switch, given how many Switches have been sold, I don't think they should do that, though. I was a little concerned when they announced the Switch Lite because I was worried about how that would do, but it seems to be doing very well. I just think Nintendo shouldn't do that. I don't think they're going to scrap the Switch and stick with the Switch Lite, though. I think given how well the Nintendo Switch is doing, they're going to stick with the Switch concept, I think, for a while, to be exact. We also learned that basically there was an update change to Minecraft Steve, and this had to do with his victory animation where he holds a piece of meat and then moves it down to a certain area moves it down to let's just say it gives the impression that Steve is holding his meat, which you get the joke and get the idea. And supposedly Nintendo sort of made an update to change that and all that stuff, which I think it was kind of funny, but not everyone thought it was funny, to be exact. But either way, they've updated that, though. There's also talk that they're saying, some people are saying that Smash is that's inappropriate for children, which, I've seen people who have played Smash Brothers who have found ways to put characters in, let's just say interesting positions, to be exact. So, yeah, I'm not buying that argument. But in either case, Minecraft Steve's basically victory pose when he wins a match has been changed to make it seem less, inappropriate, to be exact. And last but not least, the Outer Worlds has been updated to version 1.2, the Switch version to be exact. I recently downloaded that updated, though. I haven't tried it out yet. I still have to give it a go, but supposedly it's going to fix a lot of the problems that people had when they purchased the Outer Worlds for the Nintendo Switch. I didn't run into any real major problems, at least based on my time with the game, though, but obviously there are those who have, and I'm going to give the game a go, give it a try, and see what I think about the update to the Outer Worlds for the Nintendo Switch. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with Microsoft. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware, Microsoft has really been on a roll lately, basically gearing up for the launch of their next system, the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X, to be exact. I pre-ordered the Xbox Series S and all that stuff, and they've been on the news lately, especially after their purchase of Bethesda, to be exact. But there have been some questions in regards of a couple things, from not only their exclusivity with Bethesda, but also the future of probably their relationship with Nintendo, to even will we ever see a Banjo-Kazooie or Conker game, since now Microsoft owns Rare, to be exact. I mean, we saw Killer Instinct had made a comeback on the Xbox One. Battletoads recently made a comeback, although the response I've heard has been mixed at best, to be exact. But as far as Banjo and Conker goes, according to the site Pure Xbox, though, it has been reported, though, that according to Phil Spencer, this question has been asked, and in an interview with Kotaku, he basically said, quote, "I leave it up to the studios in terms of things that they want to work on. I have a lot of respect for Rare and the work that they do. They do like building new things, and they've seen success with Sea of Thieves. I think they're really excited about Everwild, but also the response to Battletoads was nice, and I think partner studios, Dala, D-L-A-L-A, did a good job with with the game. He's also been asked emails about reviving older IPs. He says, quote, "My inbox is full. Let every studio do this new IP, and also why haven't you brought back Crimson Skies and Blinks, to be exact." As far as Banjo-Kazooie goes, I mean, personally, I would love for them to bring that back, though. I have fond memories playing the original ones back on the N64, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. Never played Conker's Bad Fur Day. That came out, I think, very late in the N64's life cycle, though. I certainly would like to see those games come back, but at the same time, though, given the fact that the original developers of Rare have now left and went to form, Playtonics, and they release, Ukulele and the Impossible Layer, I just wonder if a new Banjo-Kazooie game or Conker game happen, will the magic still be there and all that stuff? I mean, so I am a little concerned about it, though, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, would I like to see Banjo-Kazooie make a comeback and Conker as well? Absolutely. I certainly do not disagree with that. As for Nintendo, as far as their relationship with Nintendo, it certainly has been good, as we've seen some of their games have made it over to the Switch, such as Cuphead, Minecraft, and Ori and the Blind Forest, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps has recently came out. But based on the comment Phil Spencer has said, don't expect a whole lot of Xbox games making their way to the Nintendo Switch. At least that's how I'm interpreting it though. And in an article from Destructoid, again, links will be in the description, they mentioned, quote, if you haven't been paying attention, Microsoft has been cozying up to Nintendo for several years. They were the first two console publishers to team up for Minecraft Better Together update for crossplay, a concept Sony was staying out of at the time. They've also partnered up with Nintendo for Banjo-Kazooie and Minecraft representative in Super Smash Bros. Things seem to be going well, according to Xbox Phil Spencer, but that doesn't mean more Microsoft games are coming to the Nintendo Switch as a result. If you recall, Spencer stated that roughly a year ago that Microsoft was going to cool it with releasing games on Switch. Their position hasn't really changed in 2020, despite a few exclusive here and there. Speaking to Kotaku, Spencer does reiterate the good working relationship between him and Nintendo. We have a very good relationship, and I think we see our work very significantly in terms of trying to grow the market, and it just makes sense. Every conversation we've had with them has been really easily. He also expressed admiration to the current Nintendo president, as well as Doug Bowser's, Nintendo of America's president. Yet Spencer noticed that releasing individual Xbox games on Switch doesn't seem feasible, and feel like he will need a full Xbox ecosystem somewhere to support it. Featuring games like Game Pass and Xbox Live integrations were mentioned. It makes a lot of sense. Microsoft might be bundling up with their competitors, and in the case of Switch, potentially their best-selling competition once the dust has settled every once in a while, but they also need to demonstrate their own values. After their own values, first-party games are a big part of that, which is the Xbox Series X will need to really kick into overdrive in 2021. Also, Microsoft didn't make all these expensive acquisitions to excuse exclusivity together though. To me, I would say I'm not completely surprised by this to a certain degree. I mean, when you consider it though, I mean, it's great that Microsoft is bringing some of their games over to the Nintendo Switch, like Cuphead and Ori and the Blind Forest and Will of the Wisps. And don't get me wrong, I would love to see something like Halo or Gears or even Forza in some form make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. But at the same time, I get what Phil Spencer is going with this, and you know what? At the end of the day, no matter how you look at it, though, it's their call. And if they decide yes, they'll bring this over to the Switch, or yes, they won't, or no, they won't bring this over to the Switch, it's their decision. I mean, it's their IPs, and they could choose to do whatever direction they want to go with this, though. So, yes, part of me would like to see Halo, Gears, and Forza on the Nintendo Switch. But part of me understands, you know what? It's their IP. They could choose if they want to bring it over to the Switch or not. They could choose to just keep it on their system, you know, the Xbox brand and all that stuff. And that's, I mean, going to be their call. So I'm not going to lose sleep if they don't bring Halo or Gears to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, as much as I would like to see it come to the Nintendo Switch, it's not something to really lose sleep over it. So it doesn't surprise me if they're going to do it on a case-by-case basis, or not do it as much or anything like that, as they want to focus on the launch of their next system, the Xbox Series S and X. So it doesn't really surprise me, even though like I said, I would love to see Halo or Gears or Forza on like the Nintendo Switch. Again, it's their call. And speaking of, you know, their call and all that stuff, they also made a comment about in regards to the future of Bethesda's games and all that stuff. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware that they purchased Bethesda for, like, I think a little over $7 billion, and acquired the rights of all of ZeniMax Studios and all that stuff, which means they own the rights, you know, like to Fallout, the upcoming Starfield and all that stuff, and even the games like Time Loop, I think Time Loop and Tokyo Ghostwire, which for now are PS5 exclusive, but if a sequel happens, that might be a different story and all that stuff. And a recent comment has sort of reinforced more than likely, like games like Elder Scrolls 6 probably are more than likely might be just be an Xbox exclusive. In another article from Pure Xbox, like I said, link in the description down below, their comment that they made in the same interview with Kotaku is, quote, "This deal was not done to take games away from another player base like that. Nowhere in the document that we put together was, how do we keep other players from playing these games? We want more people to be able to play our games, and not few people to be able to go play games. But I also say in the model, I'm just answering directly the question that you have. When I think about where people are going to be playing and the number of devices that we have, and we have xCloud and PC and Game Pass and our own console base, I do have to go ship these games. I don't have to go ship these games on any other platforms other than the platform we support in order to make the kind of deal working for us, whatever that means." In other words, and I think most people will kind of agree, it's another way of saying, you know what, if you want to play Elder Scrolls 6, you're going to have to get an Xbox to play it, though. Now, some people don't seem to like that. There are some who don't like this approach. They don't like the idea of all that. And while I can understand that to some degree, as much as I would like to see Elder Scrolls 6 on the PS5, maybe the Switch, if they can actually pull it off, though, you know, like I said before about their relationship with Nintendo, they own the rights to basically Bethesda now. They own the rights to Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout and Dishonor and all that stuff. And whatever decision Microsoft makes is their decision. If they want to keep those games on their system via the Xbox or Game Pass and PC, that's their call. Again, I understand not everyone likes that and all that stuff, but you know what? They were willing to put up the money to buy ZeniMax and Bethesda, so ultimately they have the final say on whether they are willing to put the games that the IPs that now they own either on, you know, Switch or PS5, or whether they just want to keep it on the Xbox brand and all Xbox brand only, like only on Xbox or PC to be exact. So no matter how you look at it, though, Microsoft has the final say on this. I understand not everyone agrees with it, but you know what? They own the rights now. They could choose to go whatever direction they want to go. Some people are going to like, some people don't mind this, and some people may have a big deal with this. So overall, very interesting comments Microsoft made. Their relationship with Nintendo, I understand they are not going to release every game. They're not going to bring every game to the Nintendo Switch, which is understandable. As much as I would like to see their games come to the Switch, it's their call. The future of Banjo-Kazooie and Conker, I know it's up to them to make the decision. I would like to see a new Banjo and Conker game, even though the original team has left to form their own studios. And the fact that they now own Bethesda and they could basically release a game like Elder Scrolls 6 just on their system, as much as people don't like it, it makes sense. They own the rights to Bethesda now. They own the rights to Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and whatever decision they make is their decision. And if they decide to keep it on the Xbox and PC, and then, you know, via Game Pass or xCloud, at the end of the day, as much people don't want to hear it, it is their call, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to do with a comment the CEOs or some of the folks at higher-ups at WB Games made in regard to the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 11. So, we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a recent comment one of the higher-ups at WB Games made in regards of the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 11. Now, Mortal Kombat and Nintendo has sort of an interesting history. When the original one came out back during the early 90s, though, the game was criticized mostly because of it being with its gore, and at the time was considered to be, you know, over-the-top violence and all that stuff. It's one of the reasons that gave birth to the whole ESRP. But one of the things that happened was, at the time when that game was released on the released on the Super Nintendo, the blood and all that stuff and gore was heavily censored compared to what the Sega Genesis version was and all that stuff. And that sort of was the policy with Nintendo back then. Back in the 80s and 90s, they were very conservative and very strict about what kind of games they will have on their system, or what kind of, like violence, nudity, and sex and all that stuff, compared to what Nintendo is today, which are a bit more relaxed. And to them, it's like, as long as it fits within the rating system, whatever third-party developers want to do, that's their decision, that's their call, which I wholeheartedly 100% agree with that in a way, even though I think Nintendo, at least with their image, they could kind of ease up, like especially with Tokyo Mirage Session, where that was based off the Western version, which was a bit more censored than the Japanese version, but that's another debate for another time. Though, well, recently, one of the folks at WB Games was a little worried about how Mortal Kombat 11 would do on the Nintendo Switch. In an article on Nintendo Life, though, the article reads that, quote, the release of Mortal Kombat 11 on the Nintendo Switch marks the ultra-violent series' long-awaited return to the Nintendo hardware. Unsurprisingly, there was some hesitation about bringing the game across to Nintendo's new platform prior to release. Earlier this year, at Big Digital 2020, Nintendo of America's Scott Hawkins revealed how Warner Bros. Higher-ups were apparently worried the latest entry might not be Nintendo-friendly enough to release on the hybrid platform. According to the transcript, courtesy of Nintendo Everything, it reads, quote, when Warner Bros. Got their first playable build of Mortal Kombat 11 up and running on the Nintendo Switch, I flew down and met with the team down in Southern California. One of the executives there was meeting with me and showed me the game, and we were playing it. And he looked at me and said, Scott, are you sure Nintendo wants this game on the Nintendo Switch? And I said, yes, we absolutely want this game. He was concerned it's a mature rated title that wouldn't be Nintendo friendly, but clearly after seeing the first month's worth of sales and see it become the #1 game on the platform, it showed that yes, there is an audience. There's an audience for a lot of different types of content on the platform, and this was a big success. As highlighted by Nintendo of America Scott Hawkins, the 11th entry was well received when it eventually arrived on the Switch, once again proving there is an audience for this type of content on Nintendo hardware. Though, when the Mortal Kombat series originally started out, Nintendo was known for censoring the game due to its family-friendly policy and the lack of video game age rating system at the time. When reading this, though, I think this is an unfortunate stigma that Nintendo has sort of a history about, though. While they have made some changes to some of their approaches, which is good, they've often been known to produce basically only family games that would be deemed family friendly and all that stuff, although we've seen them dip their toes to some degree in publishing N-rated games like Eternal Darkness, and Geese is a good example, but also games like Devil's Third, to even Bayonetta that they have published. Remember, it's worth pointing out, they were the ones that were willing to fully fund Bayonetta 2 as long as it remained exclusive on their platform at the time, the Wii U and also the Nintendo Switch and all that stuff. So some of that falls on Nintendo, but some of that also falls on other people as well. And I really do think it's time to sort of end this mindset about Nintendo being a kiddie platform and all that stuff. Yes, a lot of the games they make are targeted towards, younger audiences, though. So, although even younger audiences, even those games that are targeted to younger audiences, people will still play it. I mean, you could consider Mario targeted towards younger audience, but even older people are willing to play it. I mean, hell, even games like Fire Emblem to even Zelda have a bit more mature theme stuff. Not to make it as an rated M or anything like that, but definitely more mature stuff for a Nintendo game and all that. And I really think it's time that a lot of these executives stop thinking that Nintendo is only kid friendly and all that stuff. Yes, they do produce games for younger audience, but they've also known to produce games for older audiences as well. And people are willing to play these kind of games. Look at, there are a lot of people that are looking forward to playing No More Heroes 3, and that's going to be an M-rated title. The first two were M-rated. Even Travis Strikes Again was M-rated, and people were willing to play that as well. I mean, Witcher 3 is another example. That's an M-rated game on a system that some people would view as a kiddie system, yet that did very well. And I really think a lot of these executives and a lot of these people need to look at it need to stop treating Nintendo like it's just kid friendly and all. Some of that falls on Nintendo, but some of that falls on them. I mean, people are willing to play these type of games. I mean, I'm sure there are people that would love to see Grand Theft Auto 5 come to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, people would like to see that, or Red Dead Redemption and all that. There have been rumors about Red Dead Redemption 2 coming to the Switch, but I have my doubts about that one, but I could be wrong to be exact. I mean, I really think that this whole mindset about, Nintendo being just kiddie only or video games are just for kids really needs to come to an end, though. And it's also worth pointing out that Nintendo is more open in allowing developers to get away and put whatever type of game they want on their system as long as it stays within the rating system, compared to what Sony has done, which is basically they've been a bit more about what type of game, what kind of violence, nudity, sex they want on their system, which, again, that is Sony's call. That is their decision, but I don't 100% agree with that compared to what Nintendo is doing, which I think it's more open and allowing developers, third-party developers, to develop whatever kind of game they want as long as it stays within the rating system, which I applaud that. I think that's a good decision. I think that's a step forward, and I'm glad Nintendo is taking that kind of approach. So, overall, glad that Mortal Kombat 11 did well on the Nintendo Switch, though, and I do hope developers and these execs and people in general stop treating Nintendo as just a kiddie-only system. Yes, there's nothing wrong bringing, games for families and kids to enjoy, but you also got to have games for older audiences as well. You got to have games that are either rated E for everyone or rated M for mature, though. So I do hope that developers start treating the Switch a little bit differently and not treat it as just it's only for kids or that Nintendo Switch is just for kids and all that. I think that mindset really needs to come to an end once and for all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with sort of a controversy Sony kind of got themselves into in regards of the voice chat on PS5. So take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at, well, apparently it appears as though a bit of a controversy that has kind of emerged for Sony in regards of voice chat, especially with the PS5 coming up and all that stuff. Now, recently, Sony has sort of put out an update for, I think, the PS4, which should be used for the PS5. That update is often referred to as basically referred to as 8.00 update. However, that update has caused some issues really recently that Sony has been trying to acknowledge, though. It points out that the initial rollout certainly has some various problems according to what's been posted on Reddit. Some users have complained of being unable to access multiplayer games because their PlayStation Plus subscription isn't recognized after installing an update, while others claim their console has stopped loading their friends list, though. Basically, an update on the PlayStation Network service has hours ago has acknowledged this issues that they are currently facing, though. They basically responded to that one as, quote, "You may have some difficulty launching games, applications, or online features," Sony said. "Our engineers are working to resolve the issues as soon as possible, and we thank you for your patience," though. This is from basically Video Game Chronicles. But the big one that sort of has gotten people's attention and some people are not happy with is a post that basically had to do with before the PlayStation. It basically has to do with regarding voice chat. Basically, according to some folks they've posted on Twitter, they have shown pictures of basically saying, quote, "Voice chat may be recorded and monitored. By joining, you agree to being recorded. Now, not everyone is happy about this, though. It's basically, according to their software users term, though, it says that, quote, "We may track and record your software activity and remove any of your UGC that breaches these terms without further noticing you," reads the PlayStation software user term, which were updated this month. Information we can include to your content, voice, and text communication, gameplay video, the time and location of your activity, your real name, your PSN online ID and IP address. We or our affiliated companies use this information to enforce these terms to comply with the law to protect our rights and those of our licensed and users and to protect our community. We may pass this information to the police or other appropriate authorities, though. This did not sit very well with everyone. Some people posted some tweets with comments ranging from, quote, "So anyone going to acknowledge this? The party system's so messed up too. The invite menu is awful and the group message in the party are just useless." And another one person basically wrote, "Not cool, whoa." I mean, not everyone seems to be happy with this. This got about basically, the whole voice chat and some of the comment that has been made about this, and this has forced basically Sony to kind of respond to this, though, and they wrote in a PlayStation blog, quote, and this is part of their blog, "Managing online safety is an important part of ensuring that. We believe that it's critical that gamers be able to quickly and accurately report abuse or harassment if they experience it while on PlayStation Network. As part of this initiative, we've been prepared to roll out a new feature on the PS5 console that enables gamers to report verbal harassment through a new voice chat reported function. Its sole purpose is to help report of inappropriate behaviors, including action that violate our community code of conduct. Please note that this feature will not actively monitor or listen on your conversation ever, as it's strictly reserved for reporting online abuse or harassment. PlayStation gamers learned about this new function in an unexpected way following the recent PS4 8.00 system update. We didn't clearly communicate this feature or explain why we were introducing it, and we apologize for that. When the PS5 console launches in November, PS5 users will be able to chat with PS4 users, which is why we needed to include an advisory with the latest PS4 system update. We should have more clearly explained what this function was being rolled out, along with details on how it will work on the PS5 console and so forth." And it says, quote, I'll do a quick run through on it, though. I'm not going to read everything. I'll just try to make this as a cliff note as possible. Once the PS5 console launch, if PS5 player needs to file a harassment report, they will be able to include up to a 40-second long voice chat in their report, 20 seconds of the main conversation with the other players, plus an additional 10 seconds before and after the conversation selection. Only the most recent 5 minutes of voice chat will be available for players to use in this report functionality. These reports can be submitted directly through the PS5 console and will be sent to our customer experience team for moderations, who will then listen to the record and take action if needed. Some submit reports won't be valid, and our team will work to take this as an opportunity to provide guidance and education. There won't be an option to opt out of this voice chat recording functionality because we want all users to feel safe when playing with others online, not just those who choose to enable it. So I have to say, in regards of this functionality, though, I'm kind of mixed on this, though. I understand Sony wants to clamp down on harassment and bullying, and we've seen this happen before, as some people have taken it perhaps maybe a little too far, especially with the whole issue of swatting, how some people really cross the line when they do something like that. So on one hand, I understand that, but on the other hand, I feel is that this can easily, there's so many ways this could very, very easily be abused very quickly. I mean, if someone disagrees with something, they may choose to file it as an abuse and harassment. And I'm worried of how easily this could get this approach that Sony's doing could get easily, abused, and how some could take advantage of it big time. So I'm very mixed on this voice chat approach that Sony is doing. I understand, I'm glad that they apologize. I understand what they're trying to do with it, though, but I'm just worried about how easily this thing could be abused. So overall, as far as this new voice chat feature that they're adding to the PS4, and which will also be added to the upcoming release of PS5, I'm very mixed on this, though. Yes, like I said before, I understand what Sony is trying to do, but I'm also worried at the same time how this could very, very easily, how this could be exploited and taken advantage and abused very easily. At least that's how I'm seeing it, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4. And this one has to do with Nintendo in regards of not only the future of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, but also basically the surprise announcement of the original Fire Emblem coming to the Nintendo Switch, the NES one that never saw the light of day here in the West. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at two things regarding Nintendo. One is regarding the future of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and the other one is a surprise announcement of the original Fire Emblem going to be coming over to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll start with the first one, which is the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, though. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware, on the MPG charts, that game did very well. It's basically a collection of 3 of the 3D Mario games, Super Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy, though. All 3 of them I consider to be classics. Mario Sunshine, I consider that sort of be like the black sheep of the family. Not everyone likes it. I don't think it's as awful as many people make it out to be, but I would say it never reaches the height that Mario 64 or Mario Galaxy has. But in either case, the game has done very well, but at the same time, it's only being done as a limited run, which means come March 2021, they will stop selling Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and not everyone is a fan of it, though. I kind of understand. I kind of think it's kind of a little ridiculous Nintendo is doing that. But one NPT analysis thinks that Nintendo may continue selling Super Mario 3D All-Stars, but not in the way that they're selling it right now. That is possible we could see each of the games sold separately, though. In an article first reported on Nintendo Life, though, the first one believes that NPT analysis thinks that limited time 3D Mario games will be sold individually on the Switch. He doesn't think these games will disappear. According to the article, it reads that, quote, when Nintendo reveals the Super Mario 3D All-Star Collection for the Switch in September, it made very clear that it will be a limited release that would only be available until the end of March 2021. What will happen to each of these games in the collection once it's gone, though? NPT industry analysis Matt Pascala, he does a lot of those videos on basically, the NPD charts of how each of the games are selling, all that stuff. Recently shared his own theory about what might happen to each of these games, starting how he expects them to be offered separately, though. He says, quote, I don't think these games will disappear. Like what would happen when the old, with the old school Disney vaults, how Disney sells back in the day. They sold get this DVD or video while you can before it goes back into the vault, only to see it again appear on like a new format and all that stuff. I've seen those ads before. Anyway, continuing on, but I think that there may be additional flexibility and buying options. For example, an a la carte purchase option on the eShop. In fact, Matt thinks the strong sales demand for Super Mario 3D All-Stars should give Nintendo additional confidence in bringing other legacy titles to its new platform. It's saying this, it's hard to say what a company like this could do. He also says, quote, but again, it's Nintendo, so I expect to be surprised. Super Mario 3D All-Stars isn't the only limited time Nintendo release has offered recently. The Battle Royale Super Mario Brothers 35 will only be available until the end of March of next year. The free-to-download title Jump Rope Challenge was another game that was planned as a limited-time release until Nintendo decided to extend its availability, most likely due to people liking the title and all that stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that, maybe with Super Mario 35. So as far as this NPD analysis, what they're saying about each of the games sold individually, I would say it wouldn't surprise me if Nintendo does this, but my honest opinion is that I don't think they should do this at all. I think they should continue to release. I like the idea of release, the games in one cartridge and all that stuff, or all three games available on the, like in the cartridge and eShop though. I just don't like the idea of breaking them up and selling them individually, though. I like the whole idea of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, 3 games into this one cartridge, though. Although I would have liked to see Mario Galaxy 2 in there, though. So, do I think Nintendo could do this? Yes, I think it is a possibility they could do this, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do this, but I don't think they should. I personally do not support this approach. I would prefer if Nintendo basically continued to sell Super Mario 3D All-Stars with all 3 games in one Switch cartridge, though, but it wouldn't surprise me considering how popular the game is and how it's sat well with a lot of folks if they try to do something like this. So again, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think they should do that. At least that's how I'm seeing it, though. But another announcement that Nintendo made this week that kind of surprised some people is that the original Fire Emblem is coming to the Nintendo Switch, though. Now, the series in the past has also often been viewed as a niche title, and we really didn't get much entry into it until, during the Game Boy Advance era, where they started to bring the games over. And it had gained an audience, but not reached the level of popularity, though. That's not until Fire Emblem Awakening, at least from my view, when that got released on the Nintendo 3DS, and that's when the series, I think, really took off, especially adding both the original and casual mode, to be exact. Since then, we've had Fire Emblem Fate, that did well, Fire Emblem Echoes, that did well, to even Fire Emblem Three Houses and Fire Emblem Warriors, which has done very well for Nintendo to the point that they've now considered it a stable franchise to them. So from a series that once has been considering that Nintendo was going to give up on, has now sort of gained the audience, though, and certainly it has done well. So the fact that they are bringing the original Fire Emblem over is certainly nice, especially with the collector's edition, but with sort of a caveat, though. In another article from Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, the very first game in the Fire Emblem series, will launch in the West for the first time as a re-release on the Nintendo Switch. The 8-bit game previously exclusive to the Famicom in Japan will launch in the US and Europe on the Nintendo Switch eShop on December 4th. Unfortunately, and following a worrying trend for Nintendo just lately, it's only available purchase for a limited time. They include that, quote, while players across North America and Europe and North America were first introduced to Marth, M-A-R-T-H, as a fighter in the Super Smash Bros. Series, the story of this bold, encouraging prince actually began in Japan's first entry in the Fire Emblem franchise, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. The game's new release for the Nintendo Switch features its first English language localization, bringing to life the tactical RPG classic for a new generation of players. This release will also include features like rewind, fast forward, and save status, which allows burgering tacticals to approach the challenge at their own pace. The game will be priced at $5.99, $6, and will only be available until March 31st, March 2021. A special edition Fire Emblem 30th Anniversary Edition release will also be available at selected retailers at a suggested price of $49.99, $50, which includes which does sound good though in theory though, but according to what this anniversary edition is that, quote, you get a nostalgic style physical NES box, a replica NES game pack art piece with protective sleeve or shelf, the kind of thing that remember back in the old NES day, a colorful 222 page legacy of ARCHANEA Deluxe Artbook, hardbound artbook, NES instruction manuals newly localized from the original Famicom release, fold-out world mat, and mini Nintendo Power Retro collectible, which again, this all sounds neat until you get to the part where they said it's the game's download code. In other words, they're not putting it in a Switch cartridge. This is a download to be exact. So that kind of for some people may not view it as a big deal. Others may view that as a disappointment though. So it's again, the collector's edition sounds interesting, but that download code, in my opinion, kind of ruins it for me though. But the fact that they're bringing this game over is certainly nice. All that stuff, the limited, until March 31st though. March 31st, 2021. Again, I'm a little iffy about that. The fact that they're doing it that way, I know not everyone likes that and all. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if down the road, eventually after March 31st, 2021, it wouldn't surprise me at some point down the road they put this as part of, the NES collections, part of the Switch Online service and all that stuff, which, excuse me, again, some people are kind of mixed on that though. So it certainly sounds, but still, putting those two worrisome aside, it's certainly nice to see them bring sort of a classic or a game that we in the West never tried out. Although I do remember hearing they remade the first one for the Nintendo DS and all that stuff. So, but still, it is very interesting that they are bringing this game over, and maybe, just maybe, they may consider, bringing over one game that I know a lot of Nintendo fans have been asking for, but they've sort of declined, but I really think they should reconsider, and that is the one, the only, Mother 3. That's a game that a lot of Nintendo fans have been asking for a very, very long time, and I think a lot of people would love to see Nintendo bring that game over as part of the NES collection. I remember during the Wii U era, not only did they bring over the original Earthbound, but they brought over the first one that was only released in Japan, as they refer to as here, Earthbound the Beginning. So I really think Nintendo should reconsider their reasons for not bringing Mother 3 over. I think they need to change that approach, because if they're bringing this over, come on. It's time they bring over Mother 3. We've seen titles that are often viewed as niche start reaching out to a larger market. Animal Crossing, look how well that's doing. Fire Emblem, as I pointed out, look how well that's doing. Luigi's Mansion 3, look how well that is doing, to be exact. I think it's time that Nintendo really reconsiders, and I think it's time they really do bring Mother 3 over. I think it's time. The excuses need to come to an end once and for all. So overall, the NPD analysis on Super Mario 3D Run, I could see Nintendo doing that. I hope they don't do that. I don't like that approach. As far as the Fire Emblem announcement, great that they're bringing it over. Not a big fan of the limited run release, and while the collector's edition sounds nice, the fact that it's a download code only kind of kills it a little bit though, and the fact that they are bringing this over does make you kind of wonder, could they bring over something like, say, Mother 3? It's a long shot, but I do hope that if this becomes successful, I do hope it convinces them, somebody to convince over at Nintendo to really consider bringing Mother 3 over here to the West. Or calling it, like, say, Earthbound, The End, or something like that, since we had Earthbound, The Beginning, and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 5, and this one has to do with my thoughts on the demo, at least released on the Google Stadia, of Immortals Fenyx Rising. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 5th and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one I want to give my thoughts on Immortals Fenyx Rising. A demo has recently been available, it's been available on Google Stadia, so I am trying out the Stadia version of that. If you're interested in any gameplay footage of me playing the demo of the Stadia version of Immortals Fenyx Rising, I'll have a link down in the description down below, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this YouTube video. I do want to stress that the footage you're seeing is based off of my internet connection and my internet connection alone, and being that Stadia requires an internet connection to play though, depending on how solid your internet connection is, chances are it could be better than my connection or it can be worse. So it varies though, so I just want to point that out, that the gameplay footage is based off of my internet connection though. Now I'm sure most of you have heard of this game, and given the interesting history it has been gone through, originally entitled Gods and Monsters, it was revealed last year at E3 though that was coming to multiple systems, including the Nintendo Switch and Google Stadia as well though. But since that announcement, it kind of remained quiet for a bit, and it was getting, especially as we get close to the launch date of originally sometime in February though. But that all changed when a report came out that Tom Clancy Ghost Recon Breakpoint bombed for Ubisoft, or it sold poorly from them. This pretty much forced Ubisoft to reevaluate and rethink some areas though. This basically led to several games being delayed, including Watch Dogs Legion and Immortal and Gods and Monsters at the time. And so that game was delayed, basically giving the developers some time to maybe reevaluate, re-examine, and try to fix some areas, to be exact, rather than rush it out though. And then that extra work ended up with a different name and a different take, despite Stadia accidentally leaking sort of like a demo, which was based off an old version, to be exact, that they had to apologize and all. Basically under the name Immortals Fenyx Rising, despite the name not everyone sitting well with it and all that stuff. But the demo had finally come out, and based on my time with it though, I would say it's promising, but I also have concerns at the same time. Now, basically, you play as Phoenix, helping, the Greeks, gods, and all. And basically, from based on the gameplay and my time with it, though, it follows very closely to what Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is, though. Based on the demo though, you could pretty much explore a lot of places. Anytime you run or if you climb, you'll have a stamina meter, and if that runs out, basically your stamina meter, if that runs out, you could find yourself in a position leaving yourself open or falling from a high place. Even the stamina meter is used when you go swimming, to be exact. So it follows closely to that, along with some of the gameplay elements and so forth. So basically the best way to sum it up is that it's kind of one part Breath of the Wild with one part of what certainly you also get a bit of a Rygar, the Legendary Adventure, and Kid Icarus kind of vibe to it to a certain degree though. And also you also have the ability to glide and all that stuff. So there's certainly some interesting ideas, and for what I've played so far, it's not that bad. I mean, the combat is enjoyable. Some of the puzzles that they had in the game so far were simple at the time. I'm sure some of it will be different and all that stuff. So, and as far as the visuals go, I like the art style and the direction they were kind of going with it though. I also forgot to mention combat is kind of similar to what Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey was in a way. And so if you like the combat there, you'll probably like the combat in Immortals Fenyx Rising. So I would say my time with the game has certainly been good. I like some of the directions they're going with it. The combat is fun though, and I'm curious to see how this game is going to run on the Nintendo Switch. My time with the Stadia version looked like the game ran in at 30 frames per second. Might be different on PC, or might be different on what the PS5 or Xbox Series S and X might be, or even PS4 or Xbox One to be exact. So while I definitely see promise, I'm also concerned, and most of it has to do with this as being Ubisoft to be exact. And unfortunately, Ubisoft has a history of really taking some good ideas and then also screwing up and also creating controversy as well. Most people remember the whole issue with Watch Dogs, in which the visuals were downgraded despite them promising that this is a game that will give you a justifiable reason why you should pick up a PS4 or Xbox One. And when they tried to backtrack and pull the gameplay is more important than graphics argument, which I don't disagree with that argument, they kind of were caught with their pants down, and people were pretty pissed at them about that. There's also the Assassin's Creed Unity controversy that got themselves into a whole mess of trouble. There was a situation with Starlink as well, which I don't think that game was bad, and I definitely see that it definitely had an idea for what a Star Fox game could be, but their push for, recurring user spending, combined with, everything has to be open world, to even the approach of putting the Toys for Life concept, didn't sit very well with everyone, to be exact. It got to the point that the game was performing so poorly, though. And while the Switch version certainly fared better, thanks to, with the extra missions with Star Fox and all, it still wasn't enough to help save that game, to the point that you see the game heavily discounted to even in this maybe I think $9 last time I checked. I'm not saying that, I don't know if that's 100% true, to basically to the point where Ubisoft decided they would discontinue the Toys for Life thing, which by that time, outside of Amiibos, Toys for Life weren't doing very well. So they made a lot of bad decisions, and that ultimately hurt that game. And I worried, especially with reports coming out that there's going to be microtransactions in this game. Although they had microtransactions in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and that really didn't impact my time playing the game. I haven't spent a single dime or anything like that, but still, I can see why some people don't like that and all. But still, I still have concerns that somehow Ubisoft could screw this game up, which is a shame, because I like what they're doing with Immortals Fenyx Rising. I think it has potential to be a really good IP. I will say, for Switch owners, it's probably going to be the closest thing to get to an Assassin's Creed Odyssey game playing on the Nintendo Switch, outside of in Japan, where you can play it but only streaming. For everyone else, I would say it's the closest thing to Breath of the Wild on your system. Whether you think that's good or bad, that's going to be down to your preference and taste, to be exact. So, overall, my time with the demo, at least based off the Stadia demo, is that, like I said before, I think it shows promise. I like some of the stuff they're doing, but because this is Ubisoft we're talking about, I'm worried that they're going to F this up. I'm worried that they're going to do something that's going to hurt this franchise, like what we saw with Starlink Battle of Atlas, though. And I'm just worried that Ubisoft will screw this game up. Not to mention the controversy Ubisoft has found themselves into recently as well. So I'm both like what I'm seeing with the game, but I'm also worried. So that's sort of my take on the Immortals Fenyx Rising, especially the demo, though. Okay, sorry. This concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about, some of the comments Microsoft made? Do you agree with them kind of scaling back, putting some of their games on Nintendo Switch? Do you agree or disagree with them on that one? Do you agree with their call, with people making calls to see another Banjo-Kazooie and Conker game? And do you think they are right about the future of Bethesda game as to basically, since they own Bethesda now, that they could basically, they're going to keep Fallout and games like Skyrim or Elder Scrolls, more like Elder Scrolls, exclusive to their system? Or do you think they should open the doors of allowing their games to appear on other systems as well. What are your thoughts about the comments made about Mortal Kombat 11 for the Switch? Do you think the CEOs were right to be worried if this game would not appear on what they view as a kid-friendly system, or do you think that they were wrong and they need to sort that mindset basically needs to go? What are your thoughts about this controversy with the voice chat for the upcoming, like with the PS5 and all that stuff? Do you think some people were blowing it way out of proportion, or do you think people had a right to be angry? And do you think Sony could have done a better job trying to explain the whole situation with the voice chat and the whole report of abuse and all that stuff? And are you worried that people could exploit or take advantage or abuse the whole reporting any kind of inappropriate behavior with the voice chat and all? What are your thoughts about the future of 3D All Stars and this announcement about the original Fire Emblem coming to the Nintendo Switch? Do you think this NPD analysis is correct, that they will sell this game, each of those games separately though? Do you think they should continue to sell it, Super Mario 3D All Stars with all 3 games in one cartridge? Would you buy it separately? Do you think that would be a right approach for Nintendo, or do you think that would be a wrong approach? And are you looking forward to the original Fire Emblem coming to the Nintendo Switch? Are you pleased Nintendo is bringing it over though? Are you agree or disagree with their decision to have it as a limited run, only available until March 31st, 2020? Do you think the original Fire Emblem will make its way onto the Nintendo Switch Online via the Nintendo NES collection and all that stuff? And are you picking up the special edition? Are you bothered that it's only going to have a download code, or are you not bothered at all? And what are your thoughts about Immortals Fenyx Rising though? Have you tried out the demo yet, especially or the Stadia demo? Assuming you have Google Stadia though. Do you think the game shows promise? Do you think it could be a good game? Or are you worried that Ubisoft might screw it up in some ways, to be exact? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!